Alright guys, I'm just getting back from my trip to England for Battle of Hastings, which was absolutely awesome. We had so much fun hanging out there, especially seeing Ronnie Surge, hanging out with him. Like, there was this constant laugh. But actually right now, I have 23 hours until I have to get on a flight to go to California. I'm going to California for the Vans BMX Pro Cup, the US Open, the final stop that is going to be in Huntington Beach at the new Vans skate park. It is going to be this weekend coming up, Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to be hanging out there on site, and also I'm going to be doing a live stream that's going to be on the internet so everyone around the world could watch the championship of the Pro Cup. But while I'm here, I have one day, I'm by myself, Maddie's already in Huntington Beach, and I decided to do a video that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. And this video is about a couple bikes that I have in the bike shop that I haven't touched in a really, really long time. Behind me right now is all three of them, and each of those bikes have stories to them. And I'm going to explain to you guys the stories with these bikes because it's pretty amazing. Those three bikes had such an impact on my life and made me into the bike rider I am today. So what we're going to do a bike check on these old things, and I think you guys are going to really like this one. So these bikes right here are the last race bikes I ever used, and these have a pretty crazy story behind them. Both of these bikes, they look almost identical color-wise. That's because my dad actually spray painted them. I remember being a kid and being so proud of this paint job. I thought my dad did such a great job, but when it comes down to it, it was only spray paint. And this many years later, you could really tell. The last time I raced those bikes was when I was 13 years old. That's when I quit racing and I started riding freestyle full on. But I raced from age 8 until 13, and racing is what made me who I am on a bike. It gave me so much bike control and so much confidence of going fast and hitting big jumps. So the story behind me getting these bikes back is actually pretty crazy. We sold these bikes when I was 13 after I quit racing. I had no idea who we sold them to or anything like that. I was only a kid. But my dad sold these bikes to a guy that used to come to the bike track. His son used to race. And about 4 years ago, he came inside the bike shop and he asked if we wanted these bikes back. And of course we said yes. So got these things back, and it was crazy. It was like, you know, full-on memories just running back to you when I saw these bikes. So now let's talk about some of the parts that are on them, because there's some original parts and there's some not so original parts on it. But we're going to start with the smaller bike, the 20-inch. So this is the 20-inch bike. This is my regular one I would use. I used to race 13 Expert, and the wheel size is 20-inch, and you can see this wheel is a little bit bigger. That's a 24-inch wheel. So this bike right here, I'm looking at this and I don't recognize a lot of these parts that are on here. I really don't remember any of these from when I was racing. I don't know if my dad sold them with all my racing parts or not, or if the guy that had them changed some parts on them, but definitely the frame was the main feature, and that's the most recognizable feature. So this bike right here is a Roadkill. This was a company that I used to ride for from age about 10 till about 13, and the distinctive bars in the wishbone was what made Roadkill what they are. I remember being so excited when I started riding for Roadkill. It was like a dream come true. So there's the symbol for Roadkill. I remember drawing that on every single book I owned in school for years and years. Talk about the rest of these parts. As you can see, there's very, very skinny wheels on it. These are 1 3/8 tires, so really skinny, and a lot of race kits ride them. The back one looks like it might be like 1 1/8. It's really, really tiny. I'm not sure what it looks so much different for, but... And in the back wheel, it's just a basic wheel. It's got the regular cassette on it, which you really don't see much at all. On it, there's some chain tensioners. I remember having those for years and years. The back is just standard Tektro V-brakes. Now in the front right here, these are parts that I don't recognize at all. These profile cranks, those weren't mine. This big purple sprocket was definitely not on my bike. And these S&M pedals, those weren't at my alley at the time. So you move up to the top, there's an XSC post clamp on it. I don't remember owning that. And there's a uni seat. I remember being a kid and wanting to get a uni seat so bad, and when I finally got one, I was so psyched. It's really tiny. You can see compared to my hand, it's a really small seat. So onto the front of the bike, there's a profile stem on the bike. It's an aluminum stem, but also there's profile handlebars. And you can see it's got the power bend on it. So if you look down, you can see that there's actually a bend on the end of the handlebars. I remember putting my hand right up to the end part of it, and I love the way it would feel with the bend there. So everything else in this bike is pretty standard. There's nothing really that jumps out about this bike, and there's not much that I remember to this bike at all. But we'll move on to the next one, which is my Cruiser. And this is the 24-inch one, and I used to race both sizes. It was awesome to race both. You know, you got to do way more at the races, and I loved the way this bike felt. This is the same frame, but it's bigger because it's 24-inch. So you can see my dad's signature paint job. It's holding up decent. There's the double bars on the frame as well. Now this bike, I remember pretty much all of these parts except for a couple. I remember these Odyssey Black Widow cranks. I still love these. Here is the clip pedals that came on the bike. So if you guys don't know what clip pedals are, there's actually a little piece of metal that goes on the bottom of your shoe. It's screwed on there, and you put the front part in, and then you snap the back part in, and then you are officially locked on the bike. And it makes for really fast pedaling, because not only can you push down when you pedal, you can also pull up. So pretty amazing. Now these wheels, I don't really remember these wheels too much. These are pretty basic looking. I feel like I used to have a lot nicer wheels when I was younger. But moving on to the rest of the bike, this is another part. This area is the part that I really don't recognize at all. There's a mongoose seat clamp on it, and I would never run that mongoose seat post clamp because that thing is so big and bulky. And this seat and the seat post, that was not mine at all. If we move over towards the front of the bike, this is where it all starts coming back to me. Everything about this front end I remember. These handlebars weren't handlebars that I raced with, but I did own these. These were roadkill handlebars, I believe, and I actually had these on my trick bike for a while, so it's pretty cool to see those. They're really low. They was probably only like a 5-inch rise compared to what the guys are riding. Big Boy has 11-inch rise, so those bars look crazy. Now I remember the Shimano DX brake lever that was on the bike. I used to always think that thing was pretty cool looking. And then moving down, there's a DK stem on it. And then also these Answer aluminum forks. And these forks like were the coolest things out there when I was a kid. When I got my first pair of these, I was so proud of them because they're just so crazy looking. They are just so cool, so light. There's like a warning that's written on the side of it that you can't be more than like 90 pounds or something like that because yeah, they're made out of aluminum. Another cool thing that I remember was this Roncy holder that went onto the brake cable. So we would use these usually around the headset to keep the dirt from getting out of it. But this is going around the bike just holding the brake cable. So it's crazy to see one of those because you don't see those anymore at all. But look at the size of the stem. Like compared to my thumb, like it's a pretty small stem. You just don't see that anymore at all. I seriously love those bikes. Those were so much fun to ride, and I had so many great times riding those bikes. Just bringing these bikes and putting them out in the sunlight, it feels so good. So I actually have another thing I want to show you guys, and this has been hanging up in my bike shop since I was 10 years old, and it was before I even owned the bike shop. The last time I had this bike was in 1997, and this bike's been hanging up in the back ever since. And when we bought the place in 2007, the bike was still hanging in the back. So let's check it out. Right here is probably one of my favorite frames I have ever owned. This bike was so important to me, and I love this bike still to this day. This was a Cannondale Expert. Even though it has Roadkill stickers on it, I was just a kid and I rode for Roadkill, and I was so happy to ride for Roadkill. I put the sticker packet on so it blended in like the rest of my bikes. But this bike right here is very rare. There wasn't many of these made at all. So Cannondale was an American company that was making these aluminum bikes, and what was so cool about Cannondale, they made such nice frames. You can see there's no weld marks on the frames. Like, look at this. That's perfectly smooth, connecting the head tube to the down tube. Now, if you look at this bike right here, you can see the weld that connects the head tube to the down tube. That was the difference. And that goes across the whole entire bike. You can see up here, as smooth as could be. Down on the bottom bracket, smooth as well. And then on the back of the frame, this is where things get a little bit different because they have square tubing right here. And it goes up to the dropout that connects to the seat stays, but the seat stays are actually circular. So you can see the back end design is round up at the top part, but it is straight at the bottom like a triangle. So very interesting how it all works. So going up to the front of the bike, here's something that is pretty funny. Here's a sticker of Ginger Spice. She was a Spice Girl, and she was a big thing in 1997, that's for sure. I remember getting this sticker from the ice cream man, and Ginger Spice wasn't my first pick. I was actually trying to get Posh Spice, but you know what, sometimes you gotta settle. Pretty funny though. Now up to the top, you can see the guider for the cable is welded onto the frame. There's another one that is down here as well. And then the head tube, you can see, is really skinny. That's only a 1-inch head tube. And the funny part about this bike, this was actually my first freestyle bike that I was doing tricks on. We built this thing up with a gyro and everything. And the guys here that worked at the bike shop, they were the ones that mad scientists and put it all together. But at that point, I was already pretty good. I was jumping really high, I was jumping really far. And these bikes right here were not designed to do tricks and not to land hard on. So I actually would oval out the head tube all the time. And when I say oval out, you can see it is almost a perfect circle. but when I would ride it, I would break the bike so bad that it would turn egg shape, and the guys would bend it back over and over again for me, and kept on riding it. There are so many stories I could tell you guys with these bikes. I've gone all over the country with them. I've raced the Grands with those. I was national #2 on that bike right there. That bike right there, I was actually in halftime shows when I was like 10 years old. So pretty crazy, all the stories that come along with it. And I'm grateful for every single one of them because they got me to where I am today. They made me who I am, and I'm very, very proud of these. So having these at my bike shop, hanging up in the back, and just having that piece of history means so much to me. And I thank the guys so much for actually coming back and giving these bikes back to us, because it really, really means the world to me. So guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane with me. I got to get ready to go to California. I'm going to go get everything packed up, and it's going to be a different suitcase from California to England, that's for sure. I'm pretty excited about that one. But I just want to tell you guys real quick, if any of you are down there in Southern California and you want to come to the Vans Skate Park in Huntington Beach this upcoming weekend, September 14th and 15th, it's going to be open to the public, and they're going to set up a bunch of bleachers and whatnot, and I'll be hanging out there. And you guys know I love to meet all you guys around the country that watch the channel. I'm very, very proud about that. So hopefully I'll see you guys this weekend. If not, make sure you guys check out the live stream. Go follow my Instagram, go check it out, because I'll be putting up posts and letting you know exactly when it starts. So guys, that's going to be it for this one. Until next time, remember to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching. Peace.